So this is the priority list in integrating the graphic medium into university. I have three waves here. The first wave is the essential wave. That is the must into understanding the medium and appreciating it. And the second wave delves more into the historical and the social important one, the ones that hold the most value in those in that sense in the medium. And the third wave, or the ones that are just so good and experimental and just a different style and really just show how good the medium can be. I particularly make this for lit students to get into the graphic novel medium because, of course, the lit, like literature students or just lit fanatics, they don't really take graphic novels as a medium seriously, and it should be taken seriously. And I think if you truly adore stories as a whole, I think there's a lot to looking at it through different mediums. That could be theatrical, film, graphic novels, of course, and novels. To just see it in one medium is just limiting yourself to different ways in which entire new experiences of exploring storytelling, and that's just really like it's just kind of sad. So the first wave you have Understand Comics by Scott McCloud. This again, the name says it. It not only helps you understand comics, but also and why and how we should making art seriously, like. And then there's Mouse. The other one, Mouse, again, it tackles a subject in which the author, it's a like sort of biographical story. The author interviews his dad and on his experiences on the Holocaust. And the Holocaust itself is, of course, a horrific moment in human history. It really is just a this moment of like human depravity and of prevail and of versatility, really. It's really just like a family story, really, because the author gets more connected with the father, and the father through like the Holocaust, when he was trying to escape these concentration camps, and during the concentration camps, connections were very much an important thing that kept him going, really, for like okay, going for the next day, seeing like. And that was because he had people he could trust in, and he can be trusted himself, you know it looks into the importance of family. Next one is Sandman. Sandman won more than like I think 26 Eisner Awards. That is probably the most Eisner Awards, and the Eisner Awards are the equivalent of the Oscars for graphic novels. Sandman is just generally one of the best stories of all time. It is so good. It literally just shows the medium in its best, I think, in terms of quality. Being Morpheus being the prince of stories and the king of dreams. They explore the concepts of stories and dreams and that relationship with humanity. They explore humanity as well as a whole, as like the gods are actually sort of mortal in some way. And it's such an interesting way the Neil Gaiman represents the gods, the world building, the characters. It's peak. It really is peak. So next one is the second wave. Just again, the more historic, the more important one. Jimmy Corrigan is one of those first ones that got recognized as a literature masterpiece, although this kind of contradicts the other ones that I will get later into. Jimmy Corrigan was, by Times, was listed as one of the top 10 best graphic novels, uh, just like ever, really. And since 2000s, in terms of fiction stories, just of like literature, English literature as a whole. When I mean English, I don't mean like England or it got 22. That is a massive success for graphic novels, and it was taken very seriously. So Jamie Corrigan is essentially a semi-autobiographical. So it's half like true, half fictional. It's very personal at times. It's almost disturbing. The main character is sort of pathetic. He's like vulnerable, and he has father issues. And essentially, Chris Ware, he didn't have any idea really on like what the story would be. He just kind of went with it. He was being allowing himself to be vulnerable to the piece, and he really just tells such a like great story. So next one is the Eternaught. Regarding the context, I have to put it at a second wave. I would put it honestly like probably in the third wave. So it has sort of political hidden meaning. It's not really that subtle. But anyways, the author of the Eternaut was disappeared by the government, and the Eternaut itself, the ending, which I don't want to spoil, will hit so hard knowing this context that his whole family and himself was like killed, essentially killed. And this is an Argentinian in the 60s. So this was during a time in which there was great political conflict within his country, like divide and whatnot. So like, next one is The Watchmen. This is possibly the most influential graphic novel that there is in the superhero genre, and the best-selling graphic novel that there is ever, and the one of the first really to deconstruct superhero genre, and just one of those ones that got the superhero genre taken seriously. It is one of the best stories of graphic novels out there, honestly, and it's by Alan Moore. Again, one of those pioneers of graphic novels. Just truly a great piece, honestly. Just a great piece. Lit students would definitely appreciate this. Next one is Fun Home. Fun Home looks into again, it's like a memoir, and it's like true. So essentially, the author, she is a lesbian, and when she comes out, she later finds out that her father, well, she was gay, and this was a father who killed himself, and she didn't really have the best relationship with the father, and her relationship is a bit complicated with her family as a whole. It delves into like the sexual confusion, I guess, innuendos and stuff like that that can happen within family. It's the weird ways in which a family can be connected, despite being alienated in some way from each other. There's a particular part where they're all compared to like having to being artists themselves, and like the ending specifically, it's really beautiful. So yeah, that's Fun Home. Sort of a coming to age story, but it's really a lit student. The person herself tells her life during her classes. She's like a lit student essentially. So again, for the lit students, this one particular, I will put number one, almost just for that reason. The lit students would definitely adore this one. Next one is Persepolis. Now, for the lit students that have already read related material to the post-Islamic revolution in Iran, I wouldn't really recommend this like as a necessity, but to those that haven't, I do think it should be because it's a social issue, and of course, it utilizes the medium effectively and is one of the best in the medium. Persepolis is a story about a girl who, before the Islamic Revolution and after the Islamic Revolution, had affected her life, how she had to leave her country, and for her teen years, so it's kind of like a coming to age story, more so independence of like mind and body in a way. Next one is Country with God trilogy. Again, has no, this is by Will Eisner, and as mentioned, Will Eisner, the Oscars, So this is one of those ones that was said to be the first like legitimate graphic novels like to be taken seriously. Again, kind of contradictory, and I specifically recommend a trilogy because I think it really holds better if you look at it like as a trilogy rather than just the first one, A Country with God. Specifically, Dropsy Avenue, I think, is the one that deals with like it's just better structured, the best one of the trilogy. It deals with a more grand social issue, uh, particularly immigration and the sort of cycle of hatred that like revolves around it, and really is kind of a critique on American society. And I think that is what makes graphic like Will Eisner like you know special in that sense, like his work the most special. So yeah, next one. Okay, so this is the third wave. Now the third wave, I certain rules I would like if you were to read all of these, but I don't think it's a necessity for lit students. These are the ones I already explained, why there's a third wave. So for those that do want to read but don't want to read everything, you can read at least six of these, and there's 11 in total. There's technically more, but actually I'll get to it now. So two of these of the six have to be like more than one volume in size. An average volume in size is like 6 issues. And I'll get to it. So we have uh we have a Ceres Polyp. Now Ceres Polyp in Goodreads is being simped for by lit students. It's like only it's recognized as like the only one again of graphic novels that matters without like reading these other things. And a Ceres Polyp has this level of abstraction you can't really see in other graphic novels, and it's so good. It's by David Mazzucchelli. He utilizes symbolism well, to say the least. But anyways, next one is From Hell. Yeah, From Hell. From Hell is one of the best plotted stories that there probably is, like in general. It's a fan fiction of like Jack the Ripper, and it looks into like okay, it deals with like corruption and with like it's a sort of conspiracy story, and it there's a dilemma within the story that it's like it deals with morality and greed. Essentially, it's like a more again with Alan Moore. He likes to just have a darker like reflection of humanity in his stories. So I think this is his best story, and honestly, I just put in the third wave. The Incal next is space opera. One of it's the essentially the Dune equivalent in graphic novels. The person himself was supposed to, he was rejected. Of course, David Lynch took over the adaptation of Dune into cinema, and so the man made this. And the writer, or not the writer, the artist himself is also one of those pioneer artists, and the utilization of symbolism is probably more effective here, like in terms of history. It probably should be around the second wave, but no. Next one's Palestine. This transcends both the medium of graphic novels and of journalism, as it tells a story of the Palestinian conflict. The police, like, accounts stories of police brutality, and it deals with the dilemma very well. Like, even though there's a bias to Palestine, there's still like it leaves you with no like answer, to the conflict. It's almost seemed like a cycle in some way. Next is Animal Man. Now, Animal Man again. Each issue is profound. It's like a deconstruction of the superhero genre. It delves into animal rights. It delves into animal rights. Like it's it's interesting to see that portrayed in the graphic novel medium. And the main idea it explores is the breaking of the fourth wall, and it does it so better than any other story. It's truly a unique experience, the most immersive experience you would probably ever have. It breaks the fourth wall so much, you're part of the story, and that is the way it does it is so well. I haven't really seen in any other piece. Next one is Eight Ball by Daniel Klaus. Daniel Klaus is one of those ones, again, pioneers that have influenced people. He influenced Chris Ware, who made Jimmy Corrigan, and he influenced these other two that are like the equivalent of potential Chris Wares in our modern, in the modern day, which are Adrian Tomine and Nick Darnasso. And Eight Ball is essentially 18 issues, and Eight Ball uh, essentially, just to give some context of Eight Ball, Daniel Klaus was heavily inspired by Robert Crumb, I believe, and Robert Crumb is one of those people that is literally an idea. uh, the way Robert Crumb does, like the way he goes about with his art, it's again Robert Crumb's one of those very controversial, very vulnerable yet also very honest sort of artists. Like he would reveal his like deepest insecurities and portray all these sorts of like sexual frustrations, and again he was controversial for that sense. And that was Robert Crumb. Both Robert Crumb and Daniel Klaus are sort of they're sort of like doomers in some way. So it is controversial, and at times it is a bit gross. But there's a lot of experimentation within the first 18 issues of 8 Ball. For example, there's this one story that's heavily David Lynch inspired. Of course, you have Ghost World, one of the best graphic novels of all time, really. And there's a lot of shorts in which he uh, deals and like tackles certain things. He has like pet peeves with society, and he's it's a very vulnerable piece that the author is putting himself into. And this again, Daniel Klaus was one of those pioneers in the adult movement of the graphic novels, so that it could be for adults as well. And next one is Monsters, one of the best pieces of stories, really, in my opinion, written. Monsters was made by Barry Windsor over a 3 year period, and it really does show it's the most tragic story you will find out there. It is an impossibility not to cry. It is a post-Vietnam like anti-war story, and it focuses a lot on domestic abuse. And the story itself is a story about family and about human connection, and it's really beautiful. Next one is Mr. Miracle. Mr. Miracle is one of the most existential stories I have seen. It, especially in the graphic novel medium, Mr. Miracle. Essentially, the premise is Scott Free, the main character, the man who can escape anything except, everything except life. Like the way Tomkin explores relationships, the way he deconstructs. He is also again heavily influenced by Alan Moore. I know it's kind of controversial, but Tonkin is one of my favorite writers out there, honestly. I think he does take a risk in his work, and that's why it's so controversial. But so yeah, next one is there's two options of these. You can only pick one. That is the introduction into Batman. Now, I know I haven't really mentioned an actual sort of superhero story, because it's like I again lit students wouldn't really take that seriously, but honestly, there's just no excuse for this. There was a movement around the 80s which was, comics were really just seen as for children, specifically, the Western ones. The major Western ones being Marvel and DC, they have a huge influence on cinema nowadays, and they have a huge influence on just comics in general. So these two revolutionized that. They have a historical importance, and in some ways, they should be in the second wave. The first option is Year One, Dark Knight Returns, and The Killing Joke. These were part of the movement. I Killing Joke a little later, but the next one is a great introduction to the best introduction, really the essential, really to Batman, like the first beginning, the first four. So Year One, Long Halloween, Dark Victory, and The Killing Joke. These are really the ones that you would really need to get into Batman. So essentially, the what a lot of people don't find is that there's a lot of magic when it comes to superhero stories, because it's, for example, a Batman that's more than 80 years being passed through generations, being passed through several, just so many different authors, and you see the character develop in, in some ways, just seeing one volume won't be enough. And that's why a lot of people love manga, because you get to stick with the character and you feel like you get to see like an actual life kind of go through. And Batman is just one of the most uh complex characters. There's a lot of social sort of critique when it comes again, there's like Gotham City and stuff like that. It tackles a lot of social issues, as well as the villains. You have Poison Ivy representing lust and stuff. Batman himself is kind of a disturbed person. Batman just has the best stories, really, and I didn't want to be in the mindset of a Batman fan and put that completely outside. But honestly, there's no excuse for this, for it not to be in the list. The next one is one run by Urasawa. It could be any run. Particularly, my favorite is Monster, and I do think 20th Century Boys is objectively flawed and overrated. That's a bit more subjective, the overrated thing, but uh Urasawa, the way he connects everything in a story, and we have to have an Eastern writer. Urasawa is just so good, really, one of the best writers, just in general. He's just the way he again connects everything. He makes a mystery and he connects everything to a story, and everyone's so human. It's really again with his art as well. It's just so good. Next one is the black hole. This is already being studied in universities. The black hole delves into the lives of these drug addicts and who like have STDs and all that sort of stuff, and it looks into the hopelessness of the entire situation. It's the most anxious book you would ever read. It's a tragedy, but it does have moments where it feels like there may be hope, and then again, it's another tragedy. There may be hope and whatnot. At the end, it's left. You'll see, but it has the most anxiety inducing story out there. And that is it. Of course, I'll take and make a separate video on the historic pioneers in the history of comic books. But for now, I that will be it. So yeah.